For years, I thought peace came from control. Until the day I realized that my need to be perfect was the thing destroying me. I used to think being perfect meant being safe. If I could just get everything right, my grades, my job, my relationships, then no one would ever have a reason to leave. No one would ever see the parts of me that weren't enough. Perfection, for me, wasn't about pride. It was about survival. I grew up in a house where silence was safer than mistakes, where getting a B felt like failure, and good job was never quite good enough. My mom used to say, if you're going to do something, do it right, or don't do it at all. And I took that to heart. Too much, maybe. So I became that person. The one who never forgot a birthday, who double-checked every email, who smiled even when her chest was tight and her mind screamed for rest. People thought I was confident, but really, I was terrified. Terrified of what would happen if I slipped. When I was in college, I remember walking into class one day, 15 minutes early as always. The professor smiled at me and said, "You again, the model student." Everyone laughed. I smiled too. But inside, that word, model, felt like a cage. Because I wasn't trying to be a model student. I was trying not to be a disappointment. Perfectionism has a strange way of convincing you that your worth depends on performance. I wasn't living, I was performing. Every gesture, every word, every smile was rehearsed. If someone texted, I replied immediately. If I made a mistake, I'd stay up all night replaying it in my head until I found a way I could have done better. The worst part? No one asked me to be this way. No one demanded perfection, except me. At work, I was the go-to person. If something needed to be fixed, I'd do it. If a coworker was overwhelmed, I'd take on their tasks too. People called me selfless, but it wasn't generosity. It was fear. Fear that saying no would make them see me differently. That they'd finally realize I wasn't as capable as they thought. And so I built my identity around being reliable, unshakable, perfect. There's a strange satisfaction in being praised for something that's quietly destroying you. The compliments become addictive. Wow, you're so organized. I wish I had your discipline. You make it look so easy. Each one felt like a small validation, but also a reminder that I couldn't stop. That if I slowed down, even for a second, I'd lose what little approval I'd earned. So I smiled wider, worked harder, spoke softer. Until one day, I realized I didn't even know what my real smile looked like anymore. I remember one night, standing in front of the bathroom mirror after another long day, the kind where you do everything right, meet every deadline, help everyone, hold everything together. And still, when you look at yourself, you feel empty. I looked into my own eyes and thought, I don't even know who you are when you're not trying so hard. But then, as usual, I wiped my tears, straightened my hair, and whispered, "You're fine. You have to be fine." And that's the thing about perfectionism. It doesn't always look like control. Sometimes, it looks like quiet desperation, hidden behind a steady smile. That night, I didn't realize I was breaking. I thought I was just tired. Everyone gets tired, right? But deep down, something was shifting. A small, quiet voice inside me was starting to whisper, "You can't keep this up forever." I just didn't know that soon. I wouldn't have a choice. It didn't happen all at once. Perfection doesn't break. It erodes. Slowly. Quietly. It started with small things. I'd forget to reply to a message right away, or miss a detail at work. Something no one else even noticed. But I noticed, and the guilt would eat me alive. Every mistake felt like proof that I was slipping, that maybe I wasn't as put together as people thought. One afternoon, I was at the office, staring at my screen. Emails, deadlines, noise, everything blending into one blur. My boss walked by, smiled, and said, "Emily, you're our rock. I don't know what we'd do without you." Everyone nodded, agreeing, and I smiled, because that's what I was supposed to do. But inside, that sentence made my stomach twist, because I did know what they'd do without me. They'd be fine. It was me who wouldn't know what to do without the praise. That night, my best friend Lily called. She asked if I wanted to go out, maybe grab dinner. I told her I had too much work. She sighed. Emily, you said that last week. You're allowed to rest, you know? I laughed softly. Yeah, maybe next weekend. But we both knew I wouldn't. When we hung up, I sat there staring at the same document for over an hour. Not working, not resting, just existing, caught between exhaustion and guilt. Then came the breaking point. A Thursday morning, like any other. I was running late, not by much, just a few minutes. But for someone like me, that felt catastrophic. My heart was racing before I even left the house. When I got to work, I realized I'd forgotten to send an important email the night before. It wasn't the end of the world. My coworker had already taken care of it, but my brain refused to let it go. The voice in my head said, "You failed. You're slipping. They'll see it now." I went to the restroom, locked the door, and leaned against the sink. My hands were shaking. I looked at my reflection. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, but my eyes looked empty. I started crying. Not loud, just silent tears. The kind that fall because your body doesn't know what else to do. And for the first time, I didn't try to stop them. I stayed there for maybe 10 minutes. Then I wiped my face, fixed my hair, and went back to my desk. No one noticed. No one ever does when you're good at pretending. But something inside me shifted that day. A small fracture, invisible to everyone but me. I started questioning things I'd never dared to before. Why was I so afraid to fail? Why did I need everyone to think I was strong? And when was the last time I did something, anything, just because I wanted to, not because it made me look good? That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My phone was full of unread messages, my to-do list waiting for tomorrow. But for once, I didn't touch it. I just stared at the ceiling, feeling the quiet for the first time in years. It was uncomfortable, but somewhere deep down, it also felt like the beginning of something new. A tiny voice whispering, "You don't have to keep pretending." It didn't happen with a big explosion or a meltdown. It happened quietly, like the sound of glass cracking under pressure. One morning, I woke up and I just couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't smile. Couldn't rush. Couldn't pretend. My alarm went off at 6:30, like always. Normally, I'd jump out of bed, make coffee, check my emails before breakfast. But that day, I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was made of stone. For the first time in years, I didn't care if I was late. When I finally got to work, my boss asked if I was okay. I said, "Just tired," the same answer I always gave. But this time, it sounded different, even to me. He nodded, probably didn't think twice about it. But I did. I realized how often I'd said those two words, "just tired," when what I really meant was, "I'm breaking." That week, everything started to feel heavier. The emails, the deadlines, the people asking for favors. I wasn't angry. I was just numb. Lily called again. She said, "You've been distant lately. What's going on?" And I didn't know how to answer, so I said the truth. Maybe for the first time. I don't know who I am without being perfect. She was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Maybe that's exactly who you need to find out." Those words stayed with me. The following weekend, I turned off my phone. No notifications, no reminders, no alarms. It felt wrong at first, like I was doing something dangerous, but also freeing. I walked outside, no makeup, messy hair. I remember feeling the wind on my face and realizing I hadn't really felt anything in a long time. It sounds simple. Walking, breathing, existing, but it felt like rebellion. Because for once, I wasn't performing. Later that day, I stopped by a coffee shop I used to love in college. The barista recognized me. "You used to come here every morning before class," she said. You were always in such a rush. I smiled, a real one this time. Yeah, I said. I think I was always running from something. She nodded, not knowing how true that was. When I got home that evening, my apartment was messy. There were dishes in the sink, clothes on the chair, unopened mail on the table. Normally, that would have sent me into a panic. But that night, I just sat down in the middle of it. For once, I didn't feel the need to fix it. I just let it be. And sitting there, surrounded by imperfection, I realized something I'd never allowed myself to believe. Maybe peace doesn't come from control. Maybe it comes from surrender. That was the day something broke, but in the best possible way. Not a breakdown, a breakthrough. The mask I'd worn for years finally cracked enough for the real me to breathe. The days that followed felt quiet, not empty, just peaceful, in a way I hadn't felt in years. I started doing little things differently. When I woke up, I didn't rush. I made coffee and actually drank it while it was still hot. Sometimes I sat by the window, just watching people walk by. There was no checklist, no goal, no expectation, just being. At first, it felt strange, like I was wasting time, but slowly, I began to understand that stillness isn't laziness, it's healing. I stopped saying yes to everything, stopped apologizing for needing time, stopped pretending I wasn't tired, sad, or human, and something amazing happened. Life didn't fall apart. In fact, it got softer. One morning, Lily came over for coffee. She looked at me and smiled. "You seem different," she said. "I don't know," I laughed. "Maybe I'm just done trying to be perfect." She raised her cup. Finally, we both laughed. The kind of laughter that comes from relief, from realizing the world didn't end when you stopped holding it together. I used to think people loved me for my strength, but now I know they love me for my softness, for the parts of me that aren't polished, the parts that make me real. Sometimes I still slip back. I still want to fix, to prove, to control. But now I notice it. I take a breath, and I remind myself, you don't have to earn your worth. Perfection was never the goal. Peace was. And the two don't live in the same place. I learned that being human means being unfinished. It means failing, feeling, forgiving, and finding beauty in the cracks you used to hide. The day I stopped trying to be perfect, I didn't become careless. I became free. If my story sounds like yours, please remember, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to have it all together to deserve peace. You just have to be willing to be real. Healing takes time, but it starts with one small decision: to stop pretending and start living. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Unspoken Truths, and share it with someone who might need to hear this today.